Hey, everybody, it's Julie Hoffman here with the Gold Nuggets podcast. I am here with my very good friend, Brendan Skilton Douglas. Say hi, Brendan.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you, Julie. Hello.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to tell a little bit of a story. Brendan and I met, gotta be a decade ago, maybe more, at a fast track.
Eight for sure.
Eight for sure. Fast track event. I remember standing in line and he introduced himself to me. And he had like a beard and a vest and fancy pants. And he was all suited up. And yeah, I remember him. And then we met again in Saskatchewan at an event. And then fast forward and the world shuts down in early 2020. And I started talking to Paul Duncan somehow. I forget how. Paul Duncan is this amazing real estate investor and online marketer, a major hustling guy up in Fort McMurray. And Paul and I did an online event, and he said, you need to talk to Brendan because he is doing wholesaling like crazy, and he's doing bandit signs and he's doing flyers. So you need to talk to him. I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. So we connected and we had all these amazing conversations. I was just saying before we hopped on today, I wish I would have recorded all of our conversations. This is our first recorded conversation like this. And before you knew it, we created what's called the bandit sign course. And it's all about bandit signs and how to do them successfully. And it's really great. And we've had tons of success stories from students that have done it and taken action. And then we moved on to create a No Fluff Wholesaling Course. And in the midst of all that, we did a deal together in Edmonton. So just so much to talk about. Brendan is amazing. He has a really cool story that I think a lot of people can identify with. So Brendan, why don't you just introduce yourself and talk about how you got into this crazy world of real estate investing and, kind of where you started, where you are now.
Sure, yeah, bring it up to speed.
Yeah.
No sweat. I'll try and put a different spin on the age-old story I've told 1,000 times. 0 to 20, I lived in British Columbia. 20 to 30, I was a professional tree climber for a forestry department. My forestry service brought me into a government position for the city of Fort McMurray. And as soon as I got this amazing job in Fort McMurray, I was like, okay, so this is my job now for 30 years. And that scared me. And I wanted to figure out how to get exorbitantly wealthy. So that was like the seed. So now I live in Fort McMurray with this government job and an amazing wife. And so I started poking around. I found WFG, World Financial Group, and I paid for some training and I took some lessons, but I decided that wasn't a fit for me. I moved on to actually right from then I started real estate. I heard of Stefan Arnio. Actually, I'll tell you the story about the tree. Here's the tree. This is how I actually got into real estate.
Okay.
I'm a
Awesome.
forestry guy. Can I tell you a tree story? Typical, right?
Please do. Please do.
Um, so I was working for the government of Fort McMurray, and a civilian called the line about a tree, got forwarded to me. And he said, I have this tree. It's leaning over a kid's camp. Can you help me take it down? And I looked it up, and it's actually on the kids' camp property, which is private. And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't help you. He's like, you can't just cut it down. I'm like, I can't, send taxpayers' money to your private property. We can't do it. You have to hire somebody. Here's some people. And then he goes, well, can you do it like personally, like on the weekend? And I was like, personally, like that's a pretty big ask. So I said, okay, if you get me a chainsaw and a file and a rope and all this gear that I thought was impossible to get, give me a call. 2 weeks later, he gives me a call. I go out there personally on the weekend in -15, chop down this huge tree in a way so that it doesn't hit the stage. And in return, he gives me 2 tickets to a real estate seminar. I did the service by donation, and he gave me 2 tickets to a real estate seminar and told me to read 2 books, Think and Grow Rich and Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I read those 2 books, and then I went to a real estate meetup group with a professional coach mentor man, late and great Stefan Arnio. And I sat with a suit on in the front row. I drank all the Kool-Aid. I made a life decision on that weekend and I went all in and I paid for the cheapest program I could with like all of my credit and decided that this is what I'm going to do with my life.
How much was that initial investment?
I'm embarrassed to say, let's just say that I was saving up a small, humble down payment for like my first house or whatever. And I just spent that on real estate training instead.
I'll tell you my first webinar investment or seminar investment, if you'll tell me yours.
It was like $11,900.
That's not embarrassing. Why is that embarrassing?
It's not embarrassing at all. I'm proud of all the training I've taken. But at that time for us, it was a really big ticket item. And that's kind of how I got into real estate investing. It didn't all just explode. It wasn't like, oh, like sunshine. Basically, I sucked at real estate in Fort McMurray. I kept my job and I flip-flopped and did some stuff on the side. I started a rent-to-own business. I did rent-to-owns. I did property management. I did flips in Edmonton from Fort McMurray. And my head was spinning all while doing this job and not really making any money at real estate, but just like making it kind of happen.
Yeah.
Just enough to like keep going to the next one. And
Yeah.
then I took more training because I needed to know more. The rabbit hole is infinitely deep.
Yeah.
So I needed to know more, needed to know more. And then in 2019, me and my wife made a decision together that we just were going to take the risk and go all in. And I quit my government job with very little savings. And I moved to Edmonton on faith.
On a wing and a prayer.
And I worked my ass off. And then for 2 years, I worked my ass off and sucked still, but kept rent and food paid.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got good. And then after all that time, I figured out how to just not do all the stuff that didn't work.
Right.
And right about that time is when we met and made that like course, like this is how you get it on paper.
Yeah.
And so now I've been a full-time full-time wholesaler for 5 years, and I do real estate investing on the side.
Since 2019. And you're real estate investing on the side. So you are, yes, you had this churn, right? You had churn in wholesaling.
Yeah.
And now you started to set some aside, say, no, I'm building this. I'm going to build this. I'm going to build this. Because it sounds like that's
always from the start. It's a long game. So I always just kept my eye and ear open for joint venture partners, people that wanted to get in on good deals. And so I thought if I could start the wholesale business by finding good deals and continue to produce for joint venture partners and show them this available money.
Yeah.
Over time, things come together.
So would you say that the 11,900 that you invested in yourself has paid off?
Yes. And it's so cliche to say, but investing in training and mentorship is the way to go. You're buying money limitless value of knowledge, like a limitless value of knowledge that you can use for the rest of your life, ongoing forever. No one can take it from you.
Yeah, no one can take it from you. It's not like a license that you get.
It's not like a $5,000 car that deteriorates. It's $5,000 skill that you can go hunt with.
Yep, exactly. You can drop yourself in any city and wholesale.
Yeah, and no, I don't regret that first one. I'm well into like over like the span of 8 years or something. I'm well into the 70,000s of training.
Oh yeah, me too. Me too.
But
I'll tell you I said I would. My first seminar was $5,000 US with Ron LeGrand.
Yeah, that's a big ticket.
Yeah, came
but that was 20 years ago? 18?
Yeah. 21 years ago.
Yeah, well, there's experience under your belt. Good.
I had this gap. I had this little tiny gap between my first and second child. We took Cassie down to, who's 22 now, took her down to Calgary, and I went to the seminar and Jeff hung out with her, my husband, Jeff. And I went up, this is too much information, I'll tell it anyway, because it's kind of fun. I went up at every break to breastfeed and hang out with her, and he'd be like, what happened this last segment? And I'd be like, oh my gosh, I learned how to do this and this and this. And it was life changing. I took it again. I took it again the next year. I took it twice.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah, really cool. All right.
You got
This is not
questions.
about me. What's
You got
that?
questions. You got questions.
I got questions, folks. If I look over here, if you're watching this, some of you are listening, some of you are watching. I got notes and I got questions. So we've talked about how you started. What was can you think of a big learning lesson early on?
Yes, 100%.
Tell
And
the story.
it was in that first seminar.
Okay.
Um, um, it was a really high context shift when, and this is something that I wish I could just plug into everyone's brain so they realize how anyone can kind of do this stuff.
Mhm.
The context shift is the money. People get scared to talk about $10,000, $20,000, never mind you $100,000. People generally aren't really used to talking about those big numbers. So when we start talking about real estate at 300 and 400, it's scary for people to talk about. It's like trying a new workout. It's a weird thing. But if you're going to talk about it and be confident and learn it and move on, you have to understand that $100,000 is a very small amount of money in the world of real estate.
Yeah.
You can't like, and so that concept blew my mind. $100,000 is like a small amount of money, and you can't go into a deal being like, oh, you want $300,000 for your house? Like, well, I'm gonna ask for a discount. Can I get $398,000 for your house? Like, can I
Yeah.
discount it 2,000? It's like, no. Anyways, that's the big context shift.
Yeah.
Is that it's okay to talk about huge numbers. You're asking $300,000 for your house? Great, I'll give you 220. Or real estate investor, this is the deal. If this is a fit for you, then it's going to need a $450,000 liquid cash investment.
Mhm.
So that was the first lesson I learned, is you have to be able to talk about those numbers like they're okay to talk about, and not like your heart starts racing when you mention it.
Well, it
You know?
takes some getting used to, doesn't it? Because your paychecks are like maybe 4,000, maybe 5,000 a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it all,
Sometimes 1,800,
yeah, yeah,
paychecks are 1,800. And so $10,000 is like 6 months of
yeah.
work. But that's like, that's why I encourage people to wholesale, because it does take investment of knowledge, but like one deal could be, you could stumble on 20 grand
Oh, yeah.
once. Anyways, so that was my first kind of context shift.
Awesome. What about like a deal that was an adventure early on? Can you think of one?
That was an adventure early on.
Yeah. When I
Um,
say adventure, I mean it sucked.
yeah, adventure. I always think about like the gladiator ring, an adventure, like when I got my ass kicked.
Yeah. And I survived, right?
Yeah, sure. I'll tell you a good one, a negative one with a silver lining.
Mm.
And then I'll even go no fluff, and I'll tell you about a negative one that ended up with a mutual breakup.
Nice.
um, the first one with the silver lining is, I call it deal number one. It's my first deal. I basically flipped a house and did everything wrong. I bought it for too high. The neighborhood sucked. I renovated too much. I spent too much. I raised like the money to do it with 3 different people, so it was kind of messy. And when I went to sell it, I paid too much on staging and I asked for too much, and it didn't sell. And I was panicking.
Yeah.
This is all new territory to me. And if I sold it, I would have to owe these people money back, and that wasn't an option. But I had a job at the time, so I was just paying every month. So I said, this is crazy. So I just had to get a renter, because I was looking at 3 months. I don't care if it was 2 months. I'm just going to fill it and make the money, because I didn't want to lose money. So I rented it. I was like, at least stop that big leak.
Yep. Yep.
And then in December, I remember it was Christmas. I was going, I need to refinance. And I got a refinance, and they did an appraisal, but it wasn't enough to pay back my money partners still. And I was like, no, I need a new appraisal. And she rolled her eyes and did a second appraisal. And the second appraisal came back like $40,000 more,
Ooh.
which it was the difference of like 200 to 240.
Yeah,
That's a big difference. It's a
80%
big,
of $40,000 is $32,000.
So the second appraisal came back. That got me enough refinance money to make all those partners go away. Here's your money back with a 5% interest rate over 6 months. It's not as much as we expected, little interest. Here's your money back. And then I had this place refinanced with a renter, and that leak was gone. And I was like, man, did that fail? That was such a nightmare. But then I was like, wait a second. I own this property. It's renovated. It's rented. It's cash flowing a bit. And it's just sitting there. And I went, huh. So like my first ultimate fail, I accidentally did a burr.
Yeah, accidental burr.
An accidental burr, and I ended up with it. That was in 2016. I still own this property to this day. It's happily rented, and the mortgage is just like do. Yeah, that's the first war story.
I love that. It's not even. Yeah, I understand. Like what you're saying. Like it's like you're scared, and it's like that mortgage payment's going to come out, and it's not full. I've got to do something about this. But I love that. I don't think I've ever heard accidental burr before. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I discovered it by way of emergency.
And so just to, because again, this is called the Gold Nuggets podcast. I want to point out that's a reason not to quit your day job. Now, Brendan doesn't have a day job. I don't have a day. I don't have a day job.
I do have a day job. I do have a day job. I work like, 30 to 40 hours a week on my day job.
No. Sure. I just mean you were able to refinance in
wholesaling. That's my day job. Wholesale.
Sorry, yes. My apologies. You have a day job. It's wholesaling. Back then though, you had a government job, right?
Yes. Yes.
So keep that in mind, folks. Don't quit your day job. Yeah, you could have a situation just like that. Brendan was able to refinance because he had a job. And it's a little discouraging. I know it's discouraging for some people because they want out of their job right now. And I'll tell you,
there's always another foot.
Sorry, you need that foot
there's always another foot. That's some no fluff stuff that people on stage won't tell people, is that there's always another foot supporting the journey. You can't just when I quit my job to start, like, it was really rocky, and I don't recommend my path. I just there's I have my own collage of life experience or whatever reasons or whatever, but it's really good to do this on the side. Everything I've said about doing the rent to own stuff, the property management, this flip I'm talking about, the accidental burr, that was all while I had my job.
Yeah.
And this is why I'm saying at the beginning, remember I was like, I did all this real estate that like worked, but I didn't make any money on it. It just was happening. I didn't make any money on that burr. It just started a rental property.
Yeah.
And,
well,
on the side, it's got to be started on the side, because then when you make that 5,000 or 10,000, it's not just paying for rent. It's extra.
Yep. It's extra. And it's something that can replace your job. It could happen quickly. It's not impossible.
Yeah.
It's likely it's going to happen over time. If you're working full time and you're wholesaling side hustle, then yeah, it's okay. And it's okay if it takes time. When I started, I had a husband that owned a business. So we had our income, and then I never expected to buy more. We had 3 by the time I had my first child. And I fell in love with her like every parent does. And I went on maternity leave, which brought in more money for a year. And I bought 12 properties. So, I mean, like,
another part I left out about my story, just for the sake of being high level in the beginning. That first year I quit my job and came here, I wasn't making any money. So I got my insurance license. I got paid like $100 a week to take my insurance license training. And for 12 months, I had my insurance license, and I would bang out policies just to supplement, work under people and taking care of existing clients and that kind of thing, just to like work and hustle and learn a bunch of sales skills. But the other foot, don't deny the other foot. No one is just like, stop this, now I'm a real estate investor. It's this total transition of gray zone.
It can be done. I know people that have done it.
It can be done, but people have real lives.
You have a wife, and now you have 2 children. Like, It's a
Yeah,
fact.
and right now I have 6 days off, which is why like it's just such a showing of how anything's possible, but you have colorful lives, and this is a good thing to do on the side.
Absolutely, 100%. Okay, now what about lately? Okay, yeah, so share a big success story. I consider that one a success story, by the way,
Yeah. But the
because
thing, like,
you
there's
figured it
always a
out.
war. That's the thing. Every deal is always like it's like a fight. You got to push it forward and get it done. Some of them are easy, but whatever.
Some of
Um,
them are easier. They're
some of
all,
them are easier, but like when real estate investors bring deals to lawyers, they're like, ah, here we go.
yeah, and mortgage brokers and oh
Oh
my,
yeah, brokers are like, oh, I'm just
oh
gonna deal with like John and Jane buying their first house is all I
yeah.
want to do. Okay, what was the next
Okay,
one?
a home run deal.
Um,
It can be recent. It can be whenever you want.
yeah, I'll share a home run deal, and it's like, it's so amazing right now. Through a home run deal, basically, I am buying myself a $2 million apartment building,
Mhm,
and if you ask me how much it cost me, I'm getting paid a bunch to own it.
mhm. Okay, so walk us through that.
Um,
How'd you find it, first of all?
my real estate investing I do on the side is developments,
Mhm,
and I've been talking with a lot of builders, one of which I've become very close to, personally and professionally. And while dealing with another project, he casually goes, "You know what? Like I own a parcel of land in this area, and like I could just build that, and you could just buy that one from me too."
mhm.
And I was like, yeah." And so basically, we have a purchase agreement for like a year and a half out, with an investor partner to purchase this building at today's value, which is great. In a year from now,
Mhm.
today's value a year and a half from now is already a score, and we have to put down a big deposit. If he doesn't build the building, we get our deposit back,
Mhm.
and he is just going to build the building on his own dime, with his own financing, with his own land and his own name.
Yeah.
So I'm just working with him doing the design that he's paying for, and
Mhm.
he's doing the whole thing custom fitted for me and end buyer.
How many units?
8.
And so basically you have an option to purchase this property.
Yeah.
So to give people context, this is 2024, March. It's March 26, 2024. And right now Edmonton is on this hockey stick in this hockey stick situation. Values are rising quickly at a very accelerated pace, and there's a huge demand for housing. And Edmonton is very pro development.
Yeah, I would argue the best place in the country for federal, provincial, and local municipal support for development
Mhm.
and densification. Some of the shortest development permit timelines and fees in the country.
So
And there's just lots of opportunity here right now. It's a very popular strategy. This isn't A lot of people are doing it. There's a lot of competition and elbow rubbing in that strategy right now.
yeah,
But but 3.5 years ago, I was planning for all this crap. So
yeah,
start now. It's never too late to start. Plant the seed, because all of a sudden 5 years goes by.
you're planting the seed. So a couple gold nuggets here. You're you're networking with builders, very smart, because they don't want to build something and then sell it. It's a slam dunk for them to have it already sold.
Yeah,
And it's easier for them to get financing to build it if it's already sold. It's like,
exactly.
duh, right? And he's
Right.
gonna make money.
And
His crew's gonna
there's
make
lots of that
money.
going on right now, but it's just, you asked about a current win, and
Yeah,
that's a current win.
yeah. Let's see what else is in there. You
Planting the seeds. I think the planting the seeds, it's never too late. Like, just do something, anything with real estate. Real estate is a tried and historically true thing that it goes up and down and up and down and up and up and up, like, but over the big picture, it always goes up.
Mhm.
Do something, anything, do something crappy. The takeaway is like, just get your foot in the door and go through some flip flop and maybe fail at something, but time heals all. If you can buy something, just get your toe on something. and
Mhm.
it'll snowball. It's just inevitable.
Oh, and again, it goes back to why wholesaling is so valuable. Now, folks, I'm going to be real upfront with you right now. We have a wholesaling course that I'm going to talk about at the end. The link for it is somewhere around here. And there have been a lot of people who have taken it and just taken off like rockets
Taking off.
as a result of this training.
Wholesaling.
And
No Fluff
so,
Wholesaling.ca.
nofluffwholesaling.ca if you're interested. What was my point? Why did I bring that up? Look,
I don't know. You're maybe
getting all
pointing to the
excited.
webinar and
No, I want.
planting seeds and doing
Oh,
something.
this is what I wanted to say is that the other gold nugget, Edmonton, has been in a lull for a while. I think it's been like 8 years. Is that
Like
right?
12.
8 years. Yeah, 12 years. Okay.
Like 12.
Which is tough, you know. So for anybody to hang in there, even 5 years ago, it was just kind of a steady, it's just kind of a bit of a plateau, right? And then COVID, and then all these things that that affected things, and yet you were still out there planting seeds. And
Always.
then,
Yeah, always. I was just betting on like the inevitable pressure.
well, and you have a little bit, let's just, there's such thing as luck. You have a little bit of luck because Edmonton could be pro-growth or it could not be. I mean, Edmonton is one of the most, it doesn't surprise me at all that they're as, pro-growth as they are, as Edmonton is. But the fact that you've got these federal, provincial, everybody trying to, create green lights for you, that's a huge factor to look at when you're investing in a city or a town. It's like, how friendly
Yeah,
is this
everybody
going to
looks at the
be?
pro forma. It's like, look at
Oh,
the
there's so
city,
much more.
look at the initiatives, look
Yeah.
at the park planning. Like, where's the major hub? Where's the city focusing in the next decade? Like,
Where's the transit going to be improved?
right?
Where
Immigration,
is,
what is it? Transportation, immigration, and education.
yeah, yeah, and
One of
government,
those
just
hubs.
pro-government. So
And that's just some nugget that I got through training in the past.
now that's not to say that, I'll give an example. I'm in Kelowna. They just came down with some really harsh Airbnb rules. They also came out with
Yeah.
some foreign student restrictions, which there are a couple of economic generators like in
Yeah.
in this area. Fortunately, it's diverse enough. There are enough other things going on. So, but it's definitely a factor that you want to consider when you're going into a place is understand what's going on economically and understand whether or not you've got like a, a government that supports landlords or is kind of more supports tenants,
Yeah.
because that's
And
another
I don't want to
huge.
get like too overwhelming. Like, you don't need to like research government operations. Like, that's
No.
too big of a thing. But like, literally just Google like a city's new developments. Like, the city pays for all this easy Google stuff. Just Google high level and you should get an idea.
Yeah.
Most large cities have something called a city plan, and it'll be
Yes.
a huge hundreds of page document, but it'll probably have some good pictures that if you scan through the table of content and rip through the pictures, it'll give you a good idea.
Yep. And shout out to Darcy Marler. He has a course. It's a great course.
I'm a student of Darcy Marler. I paid for his training, and he is helping me a lot in these developments right now. Plug, plug,
He
plug. I don't care. I get
yeah,
nothing about the plug, but I'm taking his program.
yeah, no,
Right.
he's fantastic and his program is amazing. So shout out to Darcy Marler, and I forget the name of his, just Google him. You'll find him. And he has amazing students who are having phenomenal success. Case in point, Brendan.
He
All
totally
right, so
oh, he helped with context shift. Okay, what else you got?
yeah,
What else you
yeah.
got? You got
Okay,
more stuff.
who is your ideal seller as
Private,
a
private
as a
residential
wholesaler?
wholesaler, as a wholesaler.
Yeah.
Who is my ideal seller as a wholesaler? I could
Mhm.
answer this question like 10 times over. I'll answer it with the way I judge them immediately on the phone, whether they're going to be a good home seller or not for me. And then I'll also tell you something that relates to that, like a story.
Sure.
It slipped my mind. I'll get it back. How I judge them, how I find out who is a good seller. Oh yeah, I did a client demographic study. I went back and looked at all of my sellers in 2022 and I made 15 questions and I made a grid to pinhole their demographic. And it came out on the other side with a result. And it's so funny because all 75% of all my wholesale income comes from that demographic of person. So he, so it's very interesting
Yeah.
little report. First, how I judge a call to know whether they're going to be a good seller for me or not is I ask them, why are they selling? They have to be motivated.
Yeah.
They have to have a motivation to sell. If they're looky-loos, they want to see how much they can get, they're upgrading, they're selling next year, they have to be motivated to sell for some reason. Having a restriction of timeline means more money. What's your timeline like, short or long? Condition of the property. The crappier the condition of the property, the better it is for us. We want motivation, timeline, crappy condition, a reasonable price expectation. A lot of people have unrealistic price expectations, and as a wholesaler in a business, you can come in with fair numbers with data to support it. But if that's not matching their emotional ideas, then it's just not going to be a fit. And then rapport. If you have all those 5 things, you probably have a deal. If you're missing one of any of those 5 things, you probably don't. There's a 90% chance that if you're missing one, it's not a deal.
An area. I know you were going to talk about it. Is an area important?
No, you asked me what makes a good seller. You can have a crappy area, but if the price is 50% of the value of the property, it still might be something somebody wants. That's why, like, the property schmoperty, people always get carried away with the actual property. It just needs to be crappy enough that we can give them an offer that's like going to be low. Because if it's super nice, they're not going to take a low offer unless motivation, timeline, crappy property, reasonable cost, and a little bit of rapport. That if you have those things, that makes up a good seller for me. Also, my client demographic study, the result was baby boomers.
Yep.
A third of our population are baby boomers that bought a house in the 50s or 60s or something, and now they're all 70, 80, and 90 years old. 65, 75, 85, something like that. And they've all lived in these houses for 40 years, and they're old and they're stinky and they're moving because they need a smaller place, or they're moving with the family, or it's just that time in their life where they're just changing their lives. And so baby boomers are a great client.
That's a great point. Such a gold nugget there, because most real estate agents, and for the record, I love real estate agents with all my heart.
All of your heart? All of it?
All of it. The whole damn thing. My whole heart. I love realtors.
Baby boomers.
And also, when you have somebody that has, baby boomers tend to be a little bit, well, at least in my experience, that they're not the kind of people that have renovated and renovated and renovated their houses over time. So like you said, they're stinky and the carpet's old and they're still wallpaper. Oh, wallpaper. What a nightmare. Anyway, a realtor will likely come in and say, you need to renovate the kitchen and the bathrooms, and we should finish the basement and replace all the windows and the roof and the furnace and the hot water tank. And that $100,000 that you spend on the house will get you another 70. And it just, it makes.
Can I interject about the psychology of the sellers when it comes to the realtors and stuff? Your point is 100% accurate. Realtors want to sell a good product to make the most amount of money, and they have a reputation to not worry about. They have a reputation to upkeep, like anybody.
Yeah. And they want to help. They want to
help. They want to do the right thing. Yeah. All that stuff is right. And so from the seller standpoint, they're like, I don't want to have to just deal with all that. Yeah. A layer on top of that is that sometimes when you're the wholesaler, they like you being the anonymous person outside of their life bubble, that they can deal with it, where they don't have to, like, you know what I mean?
They don't have to show their house. They don't have to
kids, work, show, realtor. It's like,
Yeah.
They just don't have to deal with it. And sometimes these sales are quite emotional,
Yeah.
and sometimes they just can't handle like viewings coming in. Like it would just, you know what I mean? People just like to do it just quietly on the side if you present an offer. So just with that mindset of who is the ideal seller, is like, that's who they want you to be. They want you to be that nice person that can give them what they need discreetly and simply.
Yep. Yep. Love it. Great advice. Um, as a family man, I like to talk about this because I have 5 kids, and that's part of the reason why I am a real estate investor. I know you
Awesome.
feel very similar to that. As a family man, how do you keep your priorities straight? This is the last question.
Um, the last question, that's a very good one. And I'll answer that a few ways. I'm kind of like a goal-oriented, write things down type of person.
Mhm.
And when I do my yearly planning, there's always a large I make an intention to make a large component of personal in there.
Mhm.
Like my year planning isn't like deals, deals, deals. It's like make sure I speak my wife's love languages in the order,
Mhm.
and make sure that I have goals set out for my children so that I can help them do that kind of stuff because they're too young to figure that kind of stuff out. When I have one thing I do is I have like a list of categories, and
Yeah.
every week I make sure that I touch every category, like real high level. And I'll read you the list. The first
Yeah.
thing is personal.
Mhm.
I don't want a week to get away from me without writing something personal, even if it's just like me going for a walk by myself, or calling a friend, or date night with the wife, or one-on-one with the kids. Like write some personal stuff in the planner. The other categories I have are capital raising, bookkeeping, marketing, goal setting, wholesaling, property management, project management, and education.
Mhm.
So how do I make sure that I stay with the family? I schedule one day a week for daddy days where I just don't do work and I hang out with the kids and the family and cook. It's fun.
Yeah.
The flexibility is nice. I go on field trips. It's so nice. The flexibility is so nice. And I just make sure that there's a personal component on my goals and my week when I start. Even this week, last night I had friend time. We just went to the golf sim.
Fun.
Yeah.
How'd you do? Did you hit well?
He's got the long game, this heavy ball smasher, man.
Mm.
But anything inside 150 yards, he can't seem to turn it down, and I can get it on. He's the long game. I'm the short game. If we play as a team, we're really good, but it's fun.
That's awesome. I love it. All right, man. I think we've learned a lot. I
Yeah.
know the folks that who have watched have learned a lot. We're going to do more of these. So keep that in mind, everybody. We have a wholesaling course webinar
Yeah.
coming up. Make sure you
Webinar.
look in the link around here
Yeah,
for
the
the
three
information.
tips are sweet, even just to get the tips. One tip is, what are they? I'm gonna just not gonna say them, but I'll tell you what they are. The
The ones
five
we
things
talked,
you need to close.
wait, sorry, what?
One of them is the 5 documents you need to close
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
to actually get paid. I'm going to my paper. I'm almost there.
Okay.
One is changing your language, the micro changes in your language, and
That's
then
fun.
and
Yeah, that's
then
fun.
something you can do like actually today that takes 2 seconds that will get you a baby step closer to money.
Mhm.
Like
It's
today,
all
today this.
information. Yeah. It's all information that you can take to the bank right away.
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
take action on right away. That'll help move you forward. So make sure you check that out. Otherwise, there's going to be contact information around here to get in touch with Brendan if you want to. There's of course going to be contact information, my contact information, and let's see, anything else you want to talk about before we sign off here, Brendan?
No, man, giddy up. They're probably not even listening anymore, anyways.
Yeah, fair enough.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
listening. If you're still here,
Yeah.
we try and be the people that we wish we had at the beginning. So we get right to the contract, right to the point, no fluff. Jump on the webby, poach our tips.
Mhm. Take them. They're yours.
Yeah.
And I like to end off with this quote. Uh, Things may come, it's from Abraham Lincoln. Things may come to those who wait, but only what is left behind by those who hustle. So keep that in mind. If you're thinking about waiting, don't. You're
Thanks,
worth
Abe.
it. Yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Abe
Abe.
Wade.
Thank you, Abe. Thank you, Brendan. You're the best. All right, everybody. We will see you next time.